Hey everyone, welcome back to our inspirational interview series. It's been a little while since we've done one of these, and I'm here with my dear friend Robyn Rains, who we're coming into 2024 with some really exciting collaborations on board. And Robyn is the owner of White Top Yoga in Abingdon, Virginia. She's also a writer and a homesteader, goat farmer, and an artist and all sorts of wonderful things, yogini herself. And she has gone through the Vitality Circle and also served as a mentor in the Vitality Circle. So we're really excited to offer this really cool opportunity in 2024 of doing a book club. So before we get to that, Robyn, would you like to introduce yourself a little more extensively?
Sure. Like Hannah said, I have a lot of interests. You just heard. I originally grew up in Appalachian Mountains here in Southwest Virginia. I live now about an hour from where I grew up, around the Abingdon, Damascus area. I went to my first yoga class down at the Penland School of Crafts in North Carolina in probably 2001-ish, and could just, you know, I didn't know a whole lot about it, but could feel the difference in my body and in my mind. And that I feel like in and out is kind of where I got to all the places I am today. And first heard about Ayurveda through the physical yoga practice, and had always thought, when I have more time, I want to learn more about that. And I was just really grateful to say yes to Hannah's Vitality Circle, and that's really been life changing, and kind of filled in lots of gaps and loopholes about taking yoga off the mat, so to speak.
Awesome. So we've decided to offer this book. So I have this book here. So this is the, yay, we both have it. Cheers. So this is the book, The Yamas and Niyamas by Deborah Adele. So the Yamas and Niyamas have existed for a really long time. This is Deborah Adele's interpretation and invitations for us. And so this secondary title is the Exploring Yoga's Ethical Practice. So will you tell us what the yamas and niyamas are for people who are not familiar with?
Sure. I think whenever you hear a yoga teacher talk about the way we take our yoga practice off the mat, the yamas and niyamas is really a great definitions of how yoga spills out into the rest of our lives. And so there are 5 yamas and 5 niyamas. And I always laugh when people haven't heard of yamas and niyamas. They think you're saying the lamas and the lamas, which is what the autocorrect on my phone always puts, the lamas and the lamas. So the yamas, the first 5 are really get into our relationship with the outside world, everything beyond us. And then the niyamas get into how we treat ourselves. So the yama is more about our relationship, how we treat what's beyond us, and the niyamas on more of our relationship with ourselves. Sorry, my cat Trixie, I've been out of town. She's very excited. It's very intentional, the order of the yamas and the niyamas. The yamas always come first and start in their order, and before the niyamas. And so generally you always see them talked about in the same order, whatever translation you're looking at. Sometimes you'll hear the yamas referred to as restraints, and the niyamas referred to as observation or perception. However, that's only one way of looking at it. So I like to think of it, the yamas relationships beyond me, the niyamas relationships within me.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that distinction. Can we just say what they are? What the
Sure.
5?
Yeah. So the yamas, and I'll just give the English translation. So the 5 yamas start with nonviolence, truthfulness, non-stealing, non-excess, and non-possessiveness. And then the niyamas, purity, contentment, self-discipline, self-study, and surrender. And I think at face value, it's like, oh, well, I mean, nonviolence, I don't hurt people, I've got it. But there's so much more to it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think that the invitation for really exploring the yamas and niyamas is for that deeper and deeper and deeper reflection of, in what ways am I creating imbalance, right? If we talk about it, like we talk in the vitality circle from an Ayurvedic perspective of, everything that isn't creating ease in our lives stems from some sort of imbalance. And it's neat to tie it into the yamas and the niyamas specifically to see like where is that disconnect happening, and to live in a deeper and deeper alignment, we need to question ourselves. And that's really, really powerful.
Absolutely.
What drew you to this particular book?
Sure. So a friend of mine and a fellow teacher at White Top Yoga, Camille Kingsolver, back actually, I looked it up. I think it was 2015 that I was first introduced to this this translation of the yamas and niyamas from her. And I mean, I always know where this book is. Like, I almost always have it within reach, which Hannah knows how many times on a call that I'm like, hold on, let's look on this page. So yeah, so I would say it's safe to say that I have spent time with this book every year since 2015. And I just, the first time I read it, I was like, man, if we all read this like right before middle school or right in middle school, our world would be a different place. And, there are lots of different commentary and translations out there. However, I feel like Deborah Adele, you can tell her knowledge is very deep and her time spent before writing her book. And it's a very great translation to modern life. And I feel like every time it's the kind of book where you could, mark every single page. You could pretty much just highlight every page, because I feel like she's really, she's condensed it down very, very easy to follow and just get caught in and understand and get excited to put these practices into practice for yourself.
Yeah. And you can tell, like, it's not a very thick book, right?
No.
It's not like an overwhelming, like, here, you're in a book club, read this book. You're like,
no. And it's like 200 pages and, it's not tiny either.
Yeah, but powerful. And so we're going to be reading 1 chapter a month. So not overwhelming. We like small little steps that have powerful rewards when accumulated over time.
Yes. And go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, yes, we'll take it one chapter a month. And the way she has the book set up is at the end of each chapter, she has a quote, some very much, quotes from people in the yoga world, and then some quotes from just other quotes she's pulled in. And then she has 4 weeks of, she calls them questions for exploration. So there's 4 weeks worth of just, a different angle of the yama or niyama to just sit with and think about. You could journal about it, but, some of it is just, this week, notice this thing.
Yeah.
So
it's applicable to our lives.
Absolutely.
Huge undertaking. And how would you characterize what do the yamas and niyamas have to do with our lives living in 2023?
Oh, that is a great question. I think the yamas, it's interesting because the yamas are all about our outward relationships, but so many times since learning about yoga and learning about the yamas and niyamas, and then having a yoga studio and being in the business of yoga, for me, it's really important that that feeling, that sense of peace and calm and balance that yoga brings to my life. It's very important to me that I don't just feel that on my yoga mat, and practice that in the way I run my business and try to live my life. I try to be consistent with people outside the yoga studio as I am with people inside the yoga studio. And it's always so interesting to me the way I talked about they're intentionally stacked. And oftentimes for me, it'll come back to that very first yama, nonviolence, because while it's about our outward relationships, it also reminds us, like, while we're not causing harm to others, we need to not cause harm to ourselves. And so all of the yamas and niyamas, I think, really, in Hannah's Vitality Circle, the 10th habit is easeful living. And so I feel like the study of these 10 practices or these 10 topics bring us back to that more peaceful way of just working with the world and ourselves. And also understanding we cannot stop the ebb and flow of life. Without the bad, we couldn't appreciate the good the same way. And just understanding, there's a great quote, and I can't remember, it might be a Rumi quote about, the sun and the moon cohabitate. That we have to, there's always going to be that finding that balance.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the ways that I think a lot of us in modern culture right now we want something to help us figure out what is aligned or true or good. I mean, good and bad are very challenging, but we live in a culture that's so based on dichotomies, right? And so having a system, and this is ancient knowledge, and it brings us back to what is true, and asks us to articulate that for ourselves, what is true. And then that helps us find our own true north. What is important to me? How do I stay in integrity? And then I guess it helps us live in a way that creates more peace. Ultimately, that easeful living part, right?
Absolutely. And I think another thing that I get excited to share this specific text with others is not rushing through it. Like it almost, if you take your time, and this is not the first time that I've spent a year studying this with a group. When we take our time, it's just amazing to watch, like, oh, this example in my life, or wow, like I considered ahimsa, that nonviolence, or satya, the truthfulness. Like I had this hard thing that came up, and I could go back there, which is I think a really helpful, the way this text is specifically set up. It's a good tool to spend a year of your life experience and kind of seeing the universe transpire with you as you're learning.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So what will this look like for people joining our group that we're inviting you into?
Well, I'm really excited. It'll be the first Wednesday of each month from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. And we'll start out in January with an introduction. So we'll basically do an introduction of what the yamas and niyamas are. We'll take questions, talk about people's experience with the Yamas and Niyamas, I'm so grateful this was my introduction to the Yamas and Niyamas, because when the Yamas and Niyamas have come up in some other texts, I'm just like, wow, if it had been put to me this way first, I would have thought it was much more restrictive and not very welcoming, or not very current, if that makes sense, or like with real life in 2023. Well, it'll be 2024. And so we'll do the introduction the first month, and then each month we will be reading. So, the first chapter will be ahimsa, the nonviolence. So when we come back together, we'll have read ahimsa. Then we will spend, I'm going to get this confused in my head, but it'll work out very smoothly. So basically, each time we meet, we'll spend half of our time reflecting on the chapter before, and those 4 weeks of exploration, we will have read the next chapter and discussed the next chapter. Does that make sense, Hannah?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're reporting on our experience of the 4 weeks we just completed, and then setting intentions and clarifying what we're doing for the coming 4 weeks before we meet again.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And we'll, so it's nice because we'll have time where we've already read the next chapter. We'll have talked about the next Yama or Niyama, but then when we come to meet again, we'll have spent those 4 weeks really exploring the depths. And I think, Deborah Adele, those questions for exploration, it is like looking at every angle, like in from like the most interesting corner into that practice of, it's like, wow, I would have never done this myself. And so, yeah, I'm a fan, if you can't tell.
Yeah. And it's great to hear other people's experiences, right? And so that's part of why we want to do this as a community, not just be like, here's a great book to read in 2024, peace out. But we're saying, let's do this as a community so that we are connecting with each other through this process, so we can inspire and support and witness what's happening in all of our lives. And that's what's cool about these Zoom calls. You can join from anywhere. They won't be recorded. So you're either there or you're not. So you might miss a month or two throughout the year, and it's fine.
That's a great point. Yeah, you can drop back in, because literally, like, the each chapter is probably not even 20 pages. You can get a lot out of just that chapter. So I do hope people will just drop in. If you can't be there every time, it is just fine.
Yeah. I will say I have read other Yamas and Niyamas books and not been super excited about them. Although I love the principles of the Yamas and Niyamas, certainly. And Robyn convinced me to get this book, and she told me this past summer when I was going through some really challenging stuff, she was like, just get the book and right away read the tapas chapter, which is a Niyama. And and tapas is like I think of it as like the friction, the fire that kind of like polishes your rough edges and brings you to like kind of deal with the stuff you need to deal with in your life. And it's fiery and hot. And so I was like, okay, Robyn, I'm going to do this. And it was really, really helpful. So I also just wanted to share that there's, benefit to just being like, oh, this kind of feels like my medicine right now. And going through it in this systematic way for the year will be really helpful, just for our long-term learning and skill building for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. And then just thinking, long-term learning, skill building, kind of habits, the consistency is really the key in our yoga and Ayurveda work. And so I really love, Hannah knows this about me. I want to do things so slow now. Like I want everything just go down, go slower. And I just think kind of that beauty of kind of working in boundaries and just allowing enough space and time to sort of see what comes up and how it changes. I know a few people who have studied this book with me, through the years now. And it's so interesting how they're like, I've read this chapter now 4 times. And this year, whatever's happening in my life, I like took this a whole different way and different direction. So I feel like it continues to be very applicable. And I also tease somehow this book, every time I've read it, it's like I haven't read it before. Like, it just comes at me in a different place in my life. And I think that's it's good skill from the writer, and it keeps it exciting and, very much a part of our yoga and Ayurveda practice.
Yeah. And it's also a reflection of that we are always changing, and coming back to these timeless principles can be helpful touchstones for us in a day and age where so much is disposable. It's like there's these pieces that we can be like, okay, I'm in a new stage of my life, or I've evolved in this past year. Like, what's the teaching from this now?
That's right. Yeah. And I think, I just, studying Ayurveda with you, Hannah, it totally changed the lens of this whole book for me. And I realized just how much deeper of an understanding these practices, especially the Niyamas. I think the Niyamas, with your teachings, these live interviews you do, what you offer through the Heartfelt Wellbeing community, and then your, obviously your offerings through the Vitality Circle, Evolve, it's just perfect together. Actually, do you care if I read just one paragraph?
No, I was going to ask you if there was anything you wanted to read.
So this is like in the back, and it's technically in reviewing the Niyamas, but it could be reviewing the whole book. So Deborah Adele says, several years ago, I made a major change in my life. Events came together in such a way that I asked myself the question, just how good can I feel? I began to wonder if every year I could feel better and have more vitality and clarity. At the time, this question felt radical to me as I looked around at the American expectations of aging. But I decided it was worth the experiment, and that I would make choices in diet, activity, and thinking that would support this exploration. And I was like, yes. I mean, so many of those words I hear Hannah say, so, vitality, experiments, choices. So I'm just, I cannot wait to see who tunes in. I still like to use the term tuning in, even with Zoom. So who tunes in and goes on this journey with us, because I think this is a really fun new offering that Heartfelt Wellbeing and Hannah's. I'm happy to be part of hosting this experience.
Yeah, I think it'll be really, really great. Yeah, and just thinking about like what would be an amazing next step. Like always, I mean, I'm definitely on an evolutionary path for the rest of my life, and these next steps of like, we've built this community, whether you're in a program with me, or you just tune in for yoga every once in a while, or some cooking or whatever it is that calls to you, that this is another thing that a little step you can take. There's no charge. It's just simply an offering from me and Robyn and our businesses to help build this community and this knowledge and connectivity in our world, which is really beneficial. And I really like the idea of getting middle schoolers doing this.
I think middle school, like when I've thought of it, that's the age specifically of like when you can still like, they can read enough to get it and get excited. So middle schoolers. Yeah. We'll work on that. Hopefully the community that comes together for this, then we'll take it out to middle school.
Yeah, that'd be great. We like send everybody out to the middle schools where they live. Like, go read this book. Yeah, I used to teach middle school too. So I'm like, yes, that would be so great. Do you want to give us just a little snapshot of one of the yamas and niyamas, of the kind of process? I know, like, don't read the whole chapter.
Yeah, sure.
But what that might look like in the book club?
Yeah. Let's see.
Putting you on the spot.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. So
we've been talking about Svadhyaya in the Radiance Path.
That's true. We have, haven't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Svadhyaya is the practice of self-study. And what's interesting was this was a great example of a chapter that every other time I've approached this chapter, I had approached it through the lens of that forever studentship of through that lens. And then there was something this past year of studying this chapter that it's more it I realized it, yes, it is studentship, but it's also what you're learning as you're peeling back those layers of learning more about yourself. And so I love even the writing that she always usually has a quote at the beginning of the chapter. And so the beginning of Svadhyaya says, know yourself so well that you will grow into your wholeness and greatness. And so Svadhyaya, for instance, is, well, it's this thick chapter. I mean, you can hardly tell. It's short, but with a lot chopped in there. And this is a great one, Hannah, because I'll just share the week 1 of exploration. So she has, for this month, she says, frame your exploration in the following statement by Houston Smith. We all carry it within us: supreme strength, the fullness of wisdom, unquenchable joy. It is never thwarted and cannot be destroyed, but it is hidden deep, which is what makes life a problem. And then this week 1 of exploration, I felt like was like earth-shattering to me this year. She says, 99% of what bothers you is about you. 99% of what bothers others has nothing to do with you. This week, notice how you turn the above statement around, blaming others for your own problems and taking responsibility for others' problems. Practice taking responsibility for yourself and letting others be responsible for themselves.
Whoa.
So I guess I used an example that was very like, there you have it. Just do that this week and then we'll all feel better. That's all.
That's great.
Yeah. And then she uses, she'll tell stories about, I think she tells a story about, a scene from The Karate Kid. She talks about experiences with her children, her spouse, her family. Yeah, she kind of goes in and out of stories or scenes we may have seen or heard or know, and then those relationships, the everyday relationships through life that we encounter and come across.
Yeah. So it's very applicable to our modern lives and relatable. It's not like
absolutely. Yeah, and it's sort of easy, and that's it's very easy to be like, oh, that reminds me of that time, my own story in there. So she does a good job of making it relatable.
Great. Yes. So I hope those of you watching live are like, I'm ready to sign up. How can I sign up? And I'm going to post, we do have a sign up link ready to go, and I'll post that with this interview. And then we'll also have it going out in emails and social media and all the things. So look for it. And I just want to put another little plug in. Robyn and I are doing a retreat together, and maybe we'll do more about that specifically. But in January, the weekend of Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, and it's at White Top Yoga in Abingdon, and it's an amazing experience to come. So it's called the Habit Makers Retreat, and it's really about creating good habits for the year ahead and making. So since we're both makers, do you want to say anything about that?
We did it last year. We had a grand time. There will be great food available, and just time toward the beginning of the year to just take a pause, come together with a group of people, just get excited about your year, and some things you want to do. And maybe it is just simply making more time, like going to a retreat. Or maybe you have bigger goals. We will have this year, the hands-on making part is more focused. There will be an opportunity to make your own journal or sketchbook, and some writing and drawing. There's also going to be knitting and handwork circles every evening. We had a lot of fun stitching last year, so we're just mixing it up a little bit. But it's a great time to come and learn and try something you haven't tried before. There will be lots of Ayurveda sessions. Hannah's going to be leading lots of great sessions. We're going to have some what we're calling intermediate Ayurveda talks. That'll be more discussions of your own experiences with different tools and things you've learned from Hannah, and kind of where you are, and kind of using that hive mind to kind of talk about what's next. What else? There'll be yoga nidra. There's going to be every morning we'll have some meditation. We're calling it morning songs. So some mantra and some music before asana and meditation. And there'll be opportunities for more strength and heat building yoga every afternoon. So it'll be good days to just feed your soul early in the year.
Excellent. Yeah. So sign up for that is open too. So we'll be sending more like, hello, sign up for these things. So hope to see you all in person at the retreat, and hope to see you in the book club. And the first book club meeting is January 3rd. So don't let it catch you off guard. Like, we're starting first Wednesday of every month. Yeah. January happens to be January 3rd. So.
Yeah, and you can pick this book up on Amazon. There's always used copies available. It's less than $15. And you will want it forever, and you'll buy it for your friends.
Yeah. And it is on Audible. I mean, it's nice to have something to highlight or take notes in or whatever, but if you prefer to listen, it is on Audible too. So you can check that out as well. Thank you so much, Robyn. Yep. I'm so excited about this collaboration, and thanks for being here today.
Thank you.